Finding survivors are fading in Morocco, with rescue crews battling to reach remote areas. Nine correspondent Edward Godfrey is near the epicenter in the Atlas Mountains. Edward, good morning to you again. You went inside that epicenter where people just had no time to leave.
Yeah, we did, Carl, and the road out there is a disaster zone in itself. It's very, very difficult to get to, but we did spend several hours today right at the epicenter of this earthquake in the Atlas Mountains in a town called Talat Yaqub. And when you get there, it's just shocking to see what's happened. Virtually every building there has been flattened, every home, every shop, the petrol station, the post office, you name it, it's all been reduced to rubble. There are rescue teams frantically digging away, trying to find survivors, tools in hand. They've got sniffer dogs there with them, lots of people watching on, hopeful that they will find survivors. But lots of sad stories there too. We spoke with one young man who told us he lost 9 cousins when the earthquake hit. So very, very sad stories coming out of that part of Morocco. Many of the more than 2,100 people who've died in this earthquake have come from that village and from the nearby area, and that death toll continues to rise. But there are some remarkable tales of survival as well. Some vision has emerged late today of a rescue at a town called Mol Ibrahim, which isn't too far from where we are at the moment. A person pulled from the rubble 2 days after this earthquake hit, and we know just how much damage it has done, Carl. Some hope there amid all of this heartbreak.
It's fading fast though, isn't it? Edward, thank you. Welcome back to the show. Well, the death toll from the earthquake in Morocco has now exceeded 2,000. Amid the devastation, travellers in the popular holiday hotspot have been doing what they can to help survivors.
For more, we're joined by the regional manager of the Intrepid travel company, Zena Benchek, in Casablanca. Zena, thank you so much for your time. Now, you were there when the earthquake happened. Describe those first few hours for us and just how chaotic it must have been.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm based in Casablanca, and it's a bit further north from the epicenter. So we did felt the shock, but we didn't feel it as much as the south of the country did. It was quite a shock because Morocco is not used to earthquake, especially not the area that were affected. Never had an earthquake in the history of the country. So the first reactions were not really clear for us who have never been through this before. We went outside, followed the local advices. It was in the middle of the night, so it meant that we needed to spend the night outside with families, children and all of that in open areas to avoid potential aftershock repercussions. Since then, we're back to kind of normal life, at least in this area of the country. Most of the areas outside of the closest part of the epicenter, which is very focused in the rural part of the country, the High Atlas Mountain.
I had a friend of mine in Marrakesh at the time, and whilst they did feel it, it certainly wasn't damage to the extent that we're seeing in those rural areas where it's just awful. Aussies know Marrakesh pretty well, but to get into these rural areas to try and get people out, that fight is going to be awful, and also the rebuild is going to be tremendously difficult.
Absolutely. It's the biggest challenge, because to get there in a normal environment, the roads are already quite small and it's mountain area. And in this environment where, everything has been damaged significantly, it's making the rescue effort very difficult. And that's a challenge. Although, as you said, in Marrakesh, it was felt, and there are, especially the center of the city has been affected. But it is not to the extent of what we would think a 6.8 magnitude earthquake would have as an impact, which is very, very lucky in a way.
And the moment the earthquake struck, I mean, that vision that we've seen circulating has been, it's just horrific to think what everyone must have experienced. And as you said, to have not experienced an earthquake in the past and for this to suddenly happen, I mean, look at everyone just running. It is so harrowing, not knowing how long it would last and what would happen afterwards. And then we see the aftermath. I mean, Zena, this is something that the community really gets behind, isn't it, after, to try and help out in any way you can, including your company?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Morocco has a long-standing history for Intrepid. It's one of our largest destinations. We carry a very large number of customers from Australia every year in Morocco. It's been extremely popular in the post-pandemic world. And in September is a very high season for us. So we had 600 customers on the ground, and a large majority of them were Australian. So the community, our local community, our local teams, our local tour leaders have been working very hard to make sure our customers customers were safe, were reassured that if needed, some of the itineraries were rerouted. But the resilience and the corporate, like the adaptability of Australians have been incredible, and we're very grateful for that. Everyone is accounted for, everyone is safe. They're either finishing their tours as per normal, or they are, decided for some of them to leave the country, but it's a very small minority.
Right.
As I said, the earthquake has been very centralized in these areas of high Atlas mountain.
Zena, thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate that. Well, authorities in Morocco are desperately sifting through rubble in the hope of finding survivors as the death toll from the 6.8 magnitude quake soars past 2,000. Let's bring in Aussie tourist Emily White in Marrakesh, who's watching the cleanup unfold. Emily, good morning to you. How is the mood there? It's just awful, isn't it?
It really is, Carl. Good morning to you and to everyone. It's been a really surreal experience, obviously, since landing here yesterday morning. Not really knowing the extent when I landed, just how much damage I've obviously seen on the streets being here. There's people tonight sleeping out for another night on the streets because they're still too scared to go into their homes. There's obviously cracks in walls that they're not sure if there's aftershocks, what might happen. So there's a lot of just uncertainty, I guess, and just, it's really unclear what might sort of happen next.
It's such an interesting place to go and visit. But over the weekend, I had one of my great friends, Joe, who was caught up in Marrakesh and it all. But clearly, look at this vision that's coming through here, those rural areas that were really impacted most. I mean, just trying to get into those rural areas is going to be difficult. So it's a terrible set of events that have led to what is going to be difficult to handle for authorities.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I can't even imagine the cleanups, obviously, sort of just starting, especially here in Marrakesh. There's obviously some damage here as well. And it's really just starting. People that I've met, other tourists have sort of offered to give blood and things like that. And they've actually had so much overwhelming support already that they've said to, come back another day, which I guess is a real positive to come out of it, that people are really willing to help. So I think at least, there's a bit of positivity among people. The locals have all been really friendly considering what they're going through, which is amazing. So, as a tourist, it's, obviously a really difficult time to be in a country where, they're going through such a tough time. It's just so much devastation as well. So it's not easy, that's for sure.
Yeah, normal life has pretty much returned, hasn't it, in Marrakesh itself, despite the cleanup. Have there been aftershocks at all that you've experienced? What are they saying about that?
We were told this morning that there was another one. So, I guess they're just not really sure how often they might occur. I'm in quite a sturdy hotel, which is quite good. So, was sort of laying in bed last night just thinking, okay, what's an escape plan if there is another bigger one? So I guess it's in the back of all of our minds at the moment. I'm just, not really sure what might be coming next. But, it's definitely, people are still on edge and it's, people are still quite scared, obviously.
All right, Emily, travel safe. Thanks for being with us on the show today. Appreciate it.
Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh, my God. Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
That never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?